All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we are starting our first panel discussion, Beyond Borders, Globalization and Internationalization in Higher Education. To discuss this, I would like to call upon stage Dr. Upali. Please come on stage. Can we all have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Ms. Madhuri Agarwal, please come on stage. Head of Department with Department of Architecture and Regional Planning, Gautam University, Greater Noida. Dr. Upali, Rector and CEO, SIBA Capmans. Mr. Vigneswara, please come on stage. Abdulaziz Alsagar, Chair Professor, Information System Area, Department of Management Studies, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. Mr. Amit Srivastava, please come on stage, sir. Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, Graphic, AreaDept University, Dehradun. And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kakuli Sen, she's on the way. Professor and Dean, School of Business at Voxin University, Hyderabad. Can we all have a round of applause for all the panelists for the first panel discussion?
Hello, check. Am I audible? Good morning, everyone. With the deep sense of gratitude, first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer of the event for inviting me for this panel discussion. And I'll start my introduction and then I'll ask my experts sitting over here to share their introduction. So I'm the moderator of the event for today's event. And regarding my background, I am currently working as a professor in the Department of Civil Engineering, Graphic Era University, Dehradun. My education started from University of Roorkee. From there, I did my undergraduate program, Bachelor of Civil Engineering, Bachelor of Engineering in the Department of Civil Engineering. Then after that, I moved to Indian Institute of Science, IISc Bangalore, for my post-graduation and PhD program. With this brief introduction, now I'll request the other experts who are sharing the stage with me. So I'll request them to introduce themselves. Sir. Okay.
I thought we will start with the senior most first. So good morning, everyone. Myself, architect Madhuri Agarwal. Did my BA from GCA Lucknow, Masters in Architecture Pedagogy from Jamia Millia Islamia, and I am doing my PhD in Architecture, doing my research on role of and impact of crafts in morphological development of Lucknow as a traditional city. And as I already told you, my area of interest is majorly heritage and crafts. I am trying exploring the crafts of different states, especially my region, Uttar Pradesh, and I have delivered several expert lectures, international expert lectures, and apart from this job of teaching, which I'm very passionate about, I am very much interested in doing social work and working as a social activist. So whenever I get time, I keep on doing something for the society. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I am Upali Sedere from Sri Lanka, currently the Rector and the CEO of the SIBA campus in Kandy. I started my life as a university lecturer in the medical faculty, and then shifted to education, and I did my PhD in the US on a Fulbright scholarship in psychometry, and came back to Sri Lanka, served in the university until 1987, and resigned from the service and joined the UN. From the United Nations, I left to World Bank. I worked with World Bank and then left World Bank and joined the USAID. So I have worked internationally over long term, nearly 20 countries, over 1 year, 2 years, and at least 30 countries in short-term consultancies. I had been an education advocate for a long time. I wrote one book on globalization and educational reforms in year 2000, published in US, which became an enlisted reader at more than 20 US universities. And my recent book on education meeting knowledge economy was published in India and is also going quite well. Then I have several other books, plus over 150 publications. So I am education sector specialist in general. Actually, the World Bank called me general educator because that's a difficult title to get, not specialized on one side. All aspects of education from preschool to higher education, I have worked. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I don't have an impressive CV like my co-panelist. I work as a faculty member in Department of Management Studies, IIT Delhi. What is relevant to the panel is I handle international relations in the department. My department is looking at having joint degree programs with foreign universities. I'm kind of struggling to put this up in the last 9 months or so. I also handle, I'm a head of University of Queensland and IIT Delhi Research Academy, which offers joint PhD programs for students. The degree programs is being given by University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia, and IIT Delhi. We have around 100 PhD students. I handle them. And nothing else. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your brief introduction. And now coming to the theme of today's panel discussion, Beyond Borders, Globalization and Internationalization in Higher Education, which is the reality of 21st century. And this we have especially experienced after COVID-19. Leaders like you sitting over here, like Vice Chancellor or the directors or Chief Executive Officers or holding any other academic or administrative positions in your institution, you all understand very well that bringing talent in your institution improves the social status, economic, and scientific potential of your institution. But at the same time, because this is a race, now everybody is running and they are competing with each other. But at the same time, we should also understand that your national priorities and your local needs is also important. So that should also be taken care while going through this race. And your student, because your students are your customers, so that's what I say. And they should take the full advantage of being admitted in your institution. So for that, like, they should have the opportunity to study abroad or international internships, or you can say the research opportunities that is available. And for that, the faculty members play a pivotal role here, because they are the people who can develop the network, they can look for the research opportunities, they can recommend their students. So with this brief background, today we will understand these two terms, globalization and internationalization in higher education institution. And the first question, because this is a kind of question answer session where I have to bring questions, and then at the end of the session, like, the dais will be open to all, and whatever questions you have in your mind, that can also be raised. So those 4 or 5 questions that I have in my mind, being the moderator of the session, I'll put up in front of the experts. So the first question itself that comes into my mind is, what is the difference between globalization and internationalization? So any one of you who would like to?
Yeah, Amit, I would like to clarify a little bit on the historical note. Actually, globalization started in the world in 1970s, and then 80s. Up to 90s, we used the word globalization. That actually, globalization came, in my book also, the first book I addressed, I called it, globalization had mostly commodity perspective. It was basically trade. Mostly commodity transactions were under globalization. If you remember, most of the time the governments were deregulating their rules and regulations because to facilitate the free flow of goods from one country to the other. The SAARC countries signed the pact, then ASEAN countries signed like that. So the idea was actually transactions of commodities became more evident and prominent. The reason is there was, and in my book I have pointed out very well, saying that there was no HR dimension. Human development dimension was missing in globalization. Because at that time we were never talking about people. We were always talking about deregulation of financial regulations and then other, imports, exports, that kind of things. In 1994, when the internet was first introduced, and by 2000, the WWW, World Wide Web, was in place, internet spread to all countries, and the human dimension became more important. Actually, today, that's why we talk of knowledge sharing and the knowledge economy. That is where actually that facilitated only because of the internet. That was possible to share ideas. The commodity perspective became a knowledge perspective, and designing of things, designing of products, even transactions became very easy. For that, the human resource has to be prepared. So the most important thing earlier was the commodity. Now it became actually the human being. So the human capital preparation is the international perspective. That is where the higher education beyond borders becomes more important today, because everyone in every country is on this way. Yet, I really appreciated the keynote speaker's note of inclusivity, particularly the way you defined it. I'm very thankful, you did it very well. My fear is that the digital divide today is the biggest thing that, divides people, where inclusive education becomes difficult. Even a country like India, global leader, you still have 40% internet access to people. So is in Sri Lanka. And if you look at only 5 countries in the world, in the Middle East, 100% access is there. Most of the developed countries has only 90% of internet access. The 55 countries have less than 50, less than 40 countries, including India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all our neighbors. And there are countries in Africa, still it is in 5%. So these are things that we all have to bear in mind. Inclusivity, how do we bring beyond borders to everybody, is still a big question.
Thank you. So would you like to add here?
All right, I will make it very simple. If IIT Delhi wants to do an international MBA program, where the faculty members are coming from all the countries, the content is not India specific. A person graduates from my program is able to get a job anywhere in the world and continue from day one. That's globalization. Internationalization is, I have my own campus in IIT Abu Dhabi. I call that as IIT Delhi Abu Dhabi campus, is internationalization. Globalization is more conceptual. It is not tied to any geographies, boundaries, no tangible things. Internationalization is more of tangibility. You're having a location in some other campus. These are 2 different things. If you're running a higher education, you have a choice either to become very global in nature or looking at internalization, where you have multiple campuses all across the world. Thank you.
Would you like to add?
Yeah, I would like to add one thing for inclusivity we have discussed earlier. So like we have discussed inclusivity in terms of the role of women in the field of education, but maybe because I belong to the field of architecture, from the perspective of an architect, we should also think about the inclusivity in terms of universal design principles, in terms of what efforts we are doing for especially able people, like Are we talking about the blind people or the people with some other special ability in terms of higher education, since we are talking of globalization and internationalization? So when we are talking of globalization and internationalization, we are more would be talking about in terms of the online courses, the MOOC courses, and the Swayam portal, NPTEL portal that we are using nowadays, and that is actually helping us a lot. But are these platforms, feasible for especially abled people? So I think there is a need to do efforts in this direction when we talk of inclusivity in terms of higher education, especially when we are discussing globalization and internationalization. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Madhuri. So let us make this session interactive. So any point of discussion, anything that the audience wants to discuss or want to add on the theme itself. So they are most welcome. Anybody from audience? Yeah.
Mic can be given.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my take on the internationalization, especially in terms of how we can seamlessly integrate Indian education into the overseas standards. This is something that hasn't been tackled well in this country yet. It's an agenda item that needs a lot of work. For example, one of the panelists here, Vigneswara, I think her name is, yes, he mentioned the difficulty he's having in integrating with foreign universities and linking up with programs here in India. And this is a common problem in this country that needs to be addressed. When a student completes his education, for example, a diploma or a degree in this country, often it's not up to the standards expected overseas if he wants to study overseas. So if we're addressing internationalization as an issue, this is one very important area. Lifting the standards in this country to match and compete with on the world stage. So that's my take on that particular point. Thank you so much.
Please.
You know, we talked about DEI. That's all right, but the major problem that is coming in globalization and internationalization, just like Mr. Vigneswara or Dr. Vigneswara stated it, the definition was fine, but I guess education as a whole, there can be specialization, must be a commodity available to everyone. Now, if that be the truth, and whatever I'm reading, one of the major problems that people are facing world over, I mean, even in the United States, is the education loan and being able to settle the high costs. Now, that part always will hinder. So one of the things that international universities, whether they are in India or they are in any part of the world, including my experiences with Australia, is are they willing to look at it as corporate social responsibility as well? Because then it becomes feasible in India to work on what Vic has just said. Otherwise, it's a challenge which is difficult to match, no matter what we want. I guess it would be same for Dr. Upali in Sri Lanka, from whatever I know of Sri Lanka, where the high costs automatically separates the have and the have-nots. We'll come to the internet, we'll come to taking care of disabled much later. First, let's get the basics right. And that's not happening. That just doesn't seem to be happening. Just like you are struggling, I think Smita ma'am and I are also struggling to do this. How can we make it accessible to people here? And education is supposed to be noble profession all over, but doesn't seem like all the time. And to me, that is internationalization and globalization, when education can really be a commodity like a wheat, like something like that. Can we do it globally as human beings is the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightfulness. I think anybody from from that side. So before speaking, can you please introduce yourself in a short 2 lines?
To my mind, globalization is...
Sir, excuse me, sir. Please, can you introduce yourself before you speak?
I'm Captain Sen. I'm the Deputy Director of the Birla Education Trust in Pilani, Rajasthan. I have been in the field of education, especially the school education, since last about 21, 22 years. To my mind, the globalization is something like your horizontal. The boundaries are blurred when you expand from one place to another place, whereas the internationalization is primarily the vertical one, as the example is Mr. Amit, as he said, like ship campus from here to Abu Dhabi, the IIT Abu Dhabi, but the course itself, you are actually enriching, getting all the essence, getting all the flavors, international flavors, so that the students are fitting into any place in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Please introduce yourself before...
Thank you. So I'm actually Dr. Dayan Rajapaksa, Managing Director of ESOP Metro Campus, and also the President of Non-State University Association in Sri Lanka, SLANSHI. So I think from the Sri Lankan context, I think for internationalization and globalization of our institutions have basically made some off-ground through transnational education. I think in Sri Lanka, we are much more successful in establishing partnerships with foreign universities. I think more than 50 British universities are having franchise programs delivered in Sri Lanka, including some transfer programs, including transfer to Australia. So I think most of our partner association institutions have been able to take their products out through these transfer programs. So I think the next step would be for us to, we actually currently, some of our members are working on that, where to have some of the international brands to sort of set up their centers, like in Dubai and like in Malaysia. So that is our next mission, because then basically the eyes will open for our own education system also, and help us in taking our products to the global market. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I proceed, I just want to know whether two of the missing experts are here, present in the hall. Not yet received? Okay, no problem. So, thank you very much for your brief introduction and then adding values to this session by sharing your thoughts and your understanding on the topic. Now the next question that obviously comes in our mind, that how our students can learn from across the border, or otherwise our faculty members who should learn or who should be trained across the border. So anybody from the expert or...
Can I?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I repeat the question, how do we benefit as an institution, as a student community, how do we benefit from this internationalization process? There are a few things we have been trying. One is trying to have a lot more international students in our own program. So say for example, even though we are a highly reputed institution as an IIT Delhi, at the Department of Management Studies, we have problems in attracting students from Europe and US to come to our campus and study. We have a good ranking, but it is not very appealing in terms of infrastructure for people. So that is a case. What is the kind of next target we can look at? We look at other South Asian countries, looking at Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan, Nepal. So we are looking at those countries so that the students are able to come to our program, which is happening. But the true internationalization is not happening because we are good, but the existing infrastructure is not very good. For instance, if a student coming from Europe and staying in the campus, is it possible for them at night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, just step out for a drink or something and coming back? That kind of safety environment, ecosystem is not really available. The public infrastructure in terms of transport, everything is not really available for them. So they are kind of working as barriers for them. This is number one. Number two, in terms of looking at faculty members coming and teaching. So we are looking at having international faculty members on our roll. We have opened up our recruitment to various countries. So if you are able to meet the criteria set by us, you will be welcomed in our campus to come and teach. That is going to benefit a lot to the student community that is located here. We are also looking at having our students visiting other campuses for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, some kind of immersion programs, or having a credit transfer that is happening. Having a campus in some other country and free mobility of student and faculty members between these two campuses is an ideal scenario, but doesn't really happen very quickly. So what we are really looking at small scale initiatives like having students here, and we are sending our students outside for shorter time and having faculty members visiting each other campuses, doing smaller modules. This is happening. This is likely to improve over a period of time, provided if you are able to provide that complementary assets or the ecosystem that is available to them. Yeah, thank you.
Can I add to this?
Yeah, please.
As sir mentioned about the mobility as a constraint when we talk about academic mobility of the students and the faculty members, especially when we are talking about the cross-country movement or across the world. So in that, I guess we can utilize that collaborative digital technology. We can talk about collaboration. We can talk about digital technologies like virtual studios or intelligent studios, digital classrooms. Like we are talking about the concept of university without walls. We are also coming up with the concept of internet university. The only thing that we need to analyze is that how much feasibility is when we are talking of the internet universities, because like if we talk about in terms of the field like education management or I should say when we talk about in terms of the courses which are more of theoretical based, and when we are talking about of the courses that are more of practical based, both will need a different approach. So when we are talking about online courses or digital technology, the only thing that we need to consider that how we are going to justify with the practical sessions involved in the fields like civil engineering, or when we are talking about like in the fields of architecture or any of the course which is more of practical and experiment based. But at the same time, when we are talking about this internationalization and globalization, yes, at point of time when we are having the student from the international in our university, let's say at Sharda University or let's say at Galgotia's University or Amity University has so many campuses. So we are having the student from Africa, we are having the student from Mongolia. So definitely they are going to face a lot of problems in terms of climate, in terms of time zone, because they have to do a lot of adjustment. But at the same time, this internationalization and globalization is helping a lot in influencing the multicultural aspect of higher education. And that is very important when we talk of globalization. Generally, we talk of social aspect, we talk of political aspect, we talk of economic aspect. But we should also talk and emphasize about the cultural aspect. Some people, they have this viewpoint that having this globalization, internationalization is a threat for their traditions, for their custom, for their local identity. It is going to blur that. But it will, we can overcome that by, we should know the line that we need to maintain when we talk of globalization, internationalization, when we are opening up our borders for the other countries, for other students and other faculty members. Thank you.
Oh, actually, I would like to come from a different angle. It is true that the internalization in higher education is happening very well. Now, if you take India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all these countries where I worked, I have seen sometimes in one street you have, in Kandy, there is one street maybe 20 university outlets, degree awarding institutions, which are all international degree awarding institutions. Sometimes we wonder, of course, the conservative mind is also working still. Can we call them universities? Are they really producing graduates who are worth of as not just knowledge, as what my friend said it, not the knowledge, but 21st century is looking for skilled person. Can we produce that kind of graduates through this? So the quality of the graduate is very important question that we all have to raise. Number two, all these institutions as well as internationalization has a money dimension, because we are all affluent community here. It is only open for the affluent people. All degrees are offered, UK, Australia, and all degrees are offered in our countries as well, but at a price, and not everybody can manage it. So that is where the inclusivity issue is very important, because you see the digital divide is becoming even bigger and bigger. And also the idea is that, as you said, cultural dimension is also a very important thing, because you see, now in Sri Lanka I have seen the danger. People forget their mother tongue totally. And they are even at home, the English has become the transaction language at home. What will happen to our cultures? These are all questions that we all should ask, not for against it. What I say is, we have to find the right way. Now in our campus, for instance, we have started blended learning, mostly not fully online, but blended, because every month we bring our students, at least those who are online, for 1 week to the campus. Because we want to assess that their practical skills are right, their human qualities are right, at least we have to know them in certain ways. So there is also a negative side of all online education, may be good, but you see, not necessarily produce a good human being. There is no assurance about it. So it is important for us to know the cultural dimensions of it. And also, how can we take this trend to the marginalized populations? If there any way that we can also facilitate them. There is very little thinking in any of these institutions to do that. State universities are supposed to do it, but they are way behind. We all know that state universities are not that dynamic, because of their rules and regulations are still at the same level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And I liked Ms. Madhuri coined a new word, internet university. Okay, and we all have seen the new paradigm, or maybe you can say that new norms during pandemic. Before that, we were not very much comfortable with the online education. I mean, even our platforms were not so user-friendly. So we were hesitant with online lectures, or when we were trying to connect with the international speakers. It was very painful task that time. But during pandemic or after pandemic, we have experienced that even they have also improved a lot. And now online lecture or connecting with the international speaker is just a click away. So that is the benefit that we have derived, and internet and ICT has played a very important role here in the education system itself. I'll share my own experience before I hand over the mic to you. It was a very enriching experience for me also. When I helped my students to learn from the international speakers in the online mode, where I was able to conduct 3 webinars in the field of environmental engineering, geotechnical, which is our branch of civil engineering, and structural engineering. And I was able to connect with 25 speakers in every webinar, 25 to 26 speakers in each webinar across the globe, from US, Canada to Australia, Japan, China, from everywhere. And there were registrations from 50 plus different countries across the globe. And they were all coming at the same platform. And they were joining the lectures and then learning. So I realized that this is the true globalization that is on my desktop. And you will not believe that I did not pay a single penny to conduct this. It was all free of cost, no registration fee, and no honorarium or nothing was asked by the experts also. So they were genuine people. They really wanted to share their experience. And it was like being the coordinator of the event, or maybe you can say because it was my initiative. So it was challenging also because you have to actually coordinate with experts in different time zones. So sometimes it was very difficult because you will give IST and they will understand their time. So once it happened that a person from America, he was sitting in the midnight and for his lecture, and then and we arranged his lecture for his daytime. So sometimes that kind of challenge is also there. So similar experience if somebody wants to share from the audience, like how they help their students or teacher for their learning across the border, we will welcome them to speak about, so that others can also learn from their experience, that how they can help. So before we proceed, if you want to add something here.
Like you talked about that time zone problem, there are platforms like, which I have used myself personally, EDX and Coursera. They are very helpful platforms, because like I did a course from Aachen University, and it talked about the cultural heritage of Aachen University. And they nowadays universities are launching self-paced courses. So even if I'm in India, as per my time zone, I can go through the course, I can go through the exam, and I can get a certification done. And the same goes the courses on Swayam portal and NPTEL portal. Also, this provide a flexibility in the curriculum that we are following in our academics. Like we have, there are electives in our curriculum. So we have asked the student if they want to attend the classes being organized physically, or even if they want, they can go for NPTEL courses that is providing the same course. So they are supposed to attend that course. And the best part is, if we talk of today's generation, I am not that old, but if we talk of today's generation, so they want everything as per their comfort, as per their ease. So that provide them a flexibility. Even if during the night, midnight, they want to attend the course, they can do that. They just need, yes, they need to be on time for their examination to get the certification. But that adds to the flexibility, to the rigid curriculum that we follow. At the same time, the student get the opportunity to learn that same subject from expert, maybe of the different university or of different background or of different country. So that again would add to certain parameters of that particular course curriculum. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anybody from the audience who would like to share their experience, that how they helped their faculty and students to learn across the border?
Yeah, I'm again trying to intervene. A lot of experiences, but I will go along with what Dr. Upali said. Okay, things are being lost. And in this earlier thing, he has talked about internet penetration. Yeah, and then picking up from what Vike said, how do we organize inclusivity? Now, one of the things that comes to my mind, and the panel has not discussed, but maybe I'm trying to give it a new twist. If we believe, just like Vic stated, some of it that we do is not of global standard, instead of having a faculty exchange program, okay, why don't we have faculty where the level is higher mentor faculty in our countries? Okay, now that can be done online. The rest cannot be reached online. Talking about taking course from edX and Coursera, the difficulty is only the language, okay? And sometimes, in my experience, the certification is valueless because, it really doesn't, it's too much of a pedagogy which doesn't work. So if courses were to be done from Coursera or edX or Udemy or anyone, this should be made or done only by the faculty there, who could then go across and teach face to face. What you just said, Dr. Madhuri, was right, that today's generation, but why are we blaming them only? This is a hormonal problem. When I was their age, I used to bunk classes, go out and have a cigarette somewhere. So it's one of those things that happens. And that's what it is. It's, once we have grown out of it, we'll say today's generation. And ma'am, you will always remain young. So,
Thank you.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is that online is a good idea whose time has not come.
Yeah.
Okay. Internationalization is the way out.
Can
Thank
I
you.
add, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, as you mentioned that many of the certification of EDX or Coursera is valueless, with due respect, I don't agree to that. It depends totally upon how and which course you have chosen for the certification as per your field or as per your need. Obviously, if I belong to field of architecture and I choose, I will choose a course belonging to the field of electrical engineering, it is going to be valueless definitely for me.
No, I'm not talking from that point. As a faculty, when you are seeing the course, this is what I just said. As a faculty, you are seeing the course, you will see great value. But as a student, and the way our pedagogy has been going, at least in India, and some of the countries that I know, it doesn't work because ultimately that test, it's just a test type. That's my experience from what I did myself and what I made my students do and then question them and found out that they did not really gain the learning that they were supposed to. I'm talking, you see, if you and I are doing a course, we take it very seriously for the students. That's why I said it's an hormonal issue. At that age, you and I were also like that. I'm not blaming them.
No, sir, I never bunked my classes.
Anyway, difference of opinion can be there. That can be discussed.
I would like to raise a question to the audience, actually. Now
Actually,
you see
just
one question I like to raise to the audience is that, assessment is a real issue in international education because now, for instance, if you take South Asia, all countries students are tired of examination because this only exists in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal. This we are trying to get out of it, and we all know that we have failed to do that. But does internationalization and partnerships with the other foreign universities that is going on, is it possible for us to change? Because unless we change our assessment system, nothing happens. This is not only our private universities we are talking about, we are also talking about the state universities.
Yeah, no, I'm going to add beautifully to your point. Good morning, everyone.
Introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Captain Karandim Singh. I'm the director of the Indus Trust, Indus schools, all the IB schools in India. Just wanted to add to his point that, see, what you have to understand is we're talking about online education, right? We're talking about CE, continuing education. Now, continuing education is possibly a new concept that we are romanticizing in India, but it's been going on in the world since 2007. When I was a kid, I used to do Harvard courses, continuing education since 2007. I think what we've forgotten in the game right now is, in education, when we're talking about internationalization and all that is, you have entered a post-literate society. See, the number one problem when it comes is, if I even now give anyone here in the room a piece of paper and I take away your gadgets and ask you to write a letter, how many of you can make sure that your letter is grammatically correct, your uppercase, your lowercase, your commas, your semicolons? The problem is, ironically, that the more advancements in things that we're doing in AI and AGI, at the same time we're declining in the fact of reading. What's the attention span of a kid who reads a book? How many of them actually pick up a physical book and read? How many of them can actually write a letter on a piece of paper? So I think you need to look at education from a very interestingly different perspective, that with all the advantages and arsenals that we have at our disposal, how do we retain critical thinking? More than ever now, critical thinking is surrogated to AI. And there would be a time where you would not be able to differentiate. It's already happening with GPT-4 and 5 coming, that is this research paper written by the student or is it written by AI? Kids can always oversmart you. And he's absolutely right in mentioning that, see, when we are in the game where we cannot blame the child in any form. On the contrary, we have to be 2 steps up to make sure that the student understands the value of whatever technology or tool we're giving them. But at the same time, we have to be very careful. There's an existential crisis in education, that criticality, critical thinking skills are going on out of the system because schools and higher education systems are genuinely very passé. They're not realizing that reading and writing would possibly be found in 10 years in museums. So I think we have to have a balance of that.
That is true.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a completely radical perspective to what this gentleman is trying to say. I would say what he's saying is typically comes from a boomer perspective. Who's the boomer who strongly believes that whatever they're doing is great and people should be doing it? Why letter writing is important? Why books are important? Forget about this fact that I don't have to read a book, I don't have to really write anything. I can be completely dependent on short reels to learn something. All right? You need to really re-look at the way you are teaching, educating kids. Okay, you don't have to really attach too much of value to whatever existing system is, right? Why are you doing is you don't want to give away your power. You don't want to give away your control, right? The idea of faculty member coming and standing in the class and talking about is you're having a lot more ownership, the control over the knowledge, right? And you don't want the kids to know about it much early. We are talking about a generation where kids come here, they know 10 times more than you. You are here to facilitate. Okay, the entire idea, oh, you should know how to write a letter, entire thing is rubbish, all right? Re-look at the way you are talking about things in terms of education, all right? Very simple. We are talking about faculty members, teachers are, okay, basically very egoistic, all right? If you don't force them saying that 10% of the classes should be coming from online courses, if you don't force them, nobody will incorporate it, all right? Hold on.
I would like to add, sorry sir, I'm interrupting. When we are talking, you talked about critical thinking ability. See, it totally depends upon the teaching methodology and the strategy. Fine. Let me complete. Please go ahead. So when you are saying ki when we are utilizing the digital platform, we are talking of online education, are our students being able to read the book? We are not taking care whether they are being able to read the book or they are being able to write a letter. See, that totally depends upon the faculty who is tackling that class or the studio. Fine. Like when I introduce a subject, let's say history of architecture, or let's say I am asking them to design, let's say a housing, old aged home. Fine. So first we ask them, we introduce a design brief, then we ask them, go and read. When we talk about design, we talk about what to design, where to design, how to design. So we are, at the very first step, we are introducing the student to utilize their thinking ability to think logically. So students do that case study, they come up with the pros and cons, and then we introduce to them the site, and based upon their study, based upon their analysis, then they design the project.
Absolutely.
So I'm not agreeable to your point that we are lacking, where our students are not reading books or they are unable to write a letter. I think if we do the correct usage of the online platform or the digital technology, then we can definitely do a brilliant job in terms of education, in terms of teaching, as well as in terms of learning.
No, that's a valid point.
I think she has rightly said, just 2 minutes.
Yeah, please.
That we should be acting as a facilitator.
Facilitator, absolutely.
And I will share my experience that one of my students, she wrote a manuscript, and the plagiarism was 95%. Okay, so she downloaded everything. The content was from the internet, or she was using ChatGPT, which is most widely used by the students of the day.
Right.
So they are totally dependent on ChatGPT now. So I asked her to remove the plagiarism, rewrite the content, and next day she came with 0% plagiarism. Okay.
It totally depends upon us that we know that what a student
I was totally surprised. I'm just sharing my case study because this is my personal experience. So I just asked her, how did you remove the 95% plagiarism in overnight? And she was behaving like she has worked hard throughout the night and she is having a fever of 101 degree, something like that. So then I read one paragraph of that revised manuscript and I asked her just to explain what you have written now.
Right.
I think there comes a role of psychology
See,
in education.
absolutely, I agree with you. And see, when we're talking about SEL,
Explain that.
the social emotional learning quotient right now is very different from what it was when we were students. See, we have what I am not disagreeing with what you're saying. What I'm trying to, the point that I'm trying to make, see, apart from working with K-12 systems and higher education, it's been 6 years that I've been working as the United Nations ambassador to India for Sustainable Development Goals, which has given me inside knowledge of what's actually happening in all the developing countries across the world when it comes to education. Reason why I'm raising this point, and we'll be talking about this in detail today, is that we're not saying that reading and writing is something that schools are not focusing on. We're not saying that. Don't misunderstand the question. The question is that, unfortunately, because there has to be an equilibrium between all the technology that we want to use. And trust me, I'm the first guy who's developed, I'm working on humanoids right now. I'm working on humanoids that are working with GPT-4 in the classroom. We have humanoids and a teacher. So I'm a full supporter, but there has to be balance. When I say writing and reading, I'm not saying we go into empirical ways. And, to quote your beautiful word, I forgot your name, you used the word rubbish, which is nice, I'll remember that. But see, writing and reading is what creates, scientifically talking, the bilateral brain. If you do not deep read, no matter whatever, even if you're a plasma reader or you don't want to pick up a physical book, your bilateral brain will never develop as a youngster or even as a teacher for that matter. So there's a ripple effect. See, we talk about agency of teachers. Teachers have to have the same capabilities of being deep readers because teacher is the experience. Schools always misunderstand what school is. We assume curriculum is an experience. Teacher is the experience.
Yeah,
so the future of teachers are
I think you are
Sir,
a bit
ma'am, sorry for
lacking in that.
interrupting you, but
Due to shortage of time.
we have a guest here, so I would like to invite her on stage for this panel discussion. Our panelist, Dr. Kakoli Sen. Can we have a round of applause for her, ladies and gentlemen? She's has just joined us, Professor and Dean, School of Business at Boxing University, Hyderabad. Welcome, ma'am.
I think you underestimated the Delhi traffic. Okay. So welcome to the dais, madam. So we are in the middle of our discussion.
Actually, Amit, one other thing that I would like to highlight is that education is a process from primary to high education. Though we are talking about high education, what the reading and writing basic skills has to be mastered at different levels. Actually, the primary education should basically concentrate on verbal explanations, reading, writing, all those things, and secondary school should really take care of it. Unfortunately, that is not happening. That is where the problem is. Now, India, I read your GEMS reports. I read India very much. And primary education achievement rates are very, very low. Out of 10 students, only 2 students can read in grade 5. Only 2 or 3 students can read out of 10 students a grade 2 text fluently. I'm not degrading anything, but I say is the primary school or the secondary school is not taking care of it. As a result, actually, these problems become higher education problems now, because that is true. I am heading a committee in Sri Lanka, expert committee, on medium of instruction in schools. The committee is about to finish the report. And I have several professors working with me, and Professor of Sinhala at Colombo University, he was telling me, even a graduate cannot write 1 page in Sinhala correctly, not in English correctly. So these are real issues that you are raising. Yeah. Because but the problem is not in higher education actually. Problem lies down there. In primary and secondary education, those things have to be, make sure that, children achieve basic skills. That is not really monitored that well. Due to, again, inclusivity issue, it is those who are doing well are the students who go for coaching classes, and again, money is the factor. Those who are from affluent families, their achievement levels are good. But the poorer sector, the neglected sector, marginalized sector, cannot achieve those levels because of various other factors. I don't want to go into those things, but I think the other word that I also like to say, higher education should not talk the word teaching, because the time of teaching is gone. We are all facilitators today, and actually the catchword in higher education should be learning. Actually speaking, all universities in Manchester, UK, also Minnesota, and several leading universities in US, no lecturer is allowed to take a lecture more than 20 minutes now. That is by rule. That's the law. Rest has to be all activity-based, authentic learning. That is where we all should go. I think, unfortunately, we are talking less.
There is a question.
So we are talking for learning
Excuse
by
me?
doing and learning
Yeah,
from
there is,
experience.
before we take up,
Excuse me, one moment. Hi, good morning. My name is Arun. I am a product manager, worked at several corporate companies before this. One point to add to the lively debate between the two gentlemen and Ms. Madhuri Agarwal just before this. So, one of the earliest Sumerian texts from 3000 BC, that is the first kind of writing that has ever happened, that we've managed to translate, is that of an elder complaining about the youth, saying this youth is useless, they have no skills, they don't have any grit, right? So this has been this sentiment that the youth today are not up to the mark, they don't have the grit or the determination or the capabilities, is not something that's even boomer, it's thousands of years old literally. And about the point that the gentleman made about using tools like ChatGPT to be able to generate texts and to finish work faster, I'd again like to quote another humorous cartoon strip where it shows an ancient Egyptian kid complaining that the feel of paper, the feel of writing on paper is just not the same as writing or carving into a clay tablet or a stone tablet, right? Which is what we are saying with, say, something like a Kindle, saying it doesn't feel like a physical copy or a book. Now, what we might be missing here as we grow into adulthood and later is that the new generation may not have the skills that you look for in them, but they have a different set of skills, which we may not.
Agreed. Very good, very good, very good. So, you have rightly said that, I'll share one example here. I gave one equation and I asked my student to give the solution. He just typed the equation in the Google and got the answer. Okay, so then I was thinking that what should I teach him then? Because Google is there to help him, then I should teach something else. Because
Amit, can I make a point here?
Yeah,
Thank
please.
you. Good morning, everyone. I think I am the only person here who has had the privilege in this short time of being on both sides. So I was listening from there also, and I'm now here. I completely, agree with a lot of points that are being talked about. I think my co-panelist said something, and we had questions and rebuttals from there. And young man, I really appreciate what you said, that this is something like when we were young, we were also told you are no good. And we are continuing the tradition of saying the younger generation is no good. I think it's our ignorance that we don't understand them and we don't know what drives them. And if we are saying today that they are not doing what they should be doing, I think somewhere we are failing to inspire them. If we are, the young generation is very, very talented, very meritorious. If there are opportunities and if there are tools for them, if there is a ChatGPT which they are using, is it a crime? If we did not have ChatGPT at our time and we did not get to use it, is it a crime that they are using it? What is it that is being made for? So if they are using ChatGPT for assignment or for anything, if they are using their brains to overnight, trick or hack 95% plagiarism to 0% plagiarism, we have to give credit for that also. How they are able to do it. What is our system doing and how foolproof is our system? How diligent are we while designing our own assessments of students that we've ensured that these things are taken care of?
Absolutely. I'll be the first to admit that, for example, I don't know how to use a slide rule or how to use a log table, right? These were tools that may have been used by some of the panelists here, definitely people from the previous generation as well. So just like now you don't feel the need for even including the use of that in your curriculum, whether to engineering or high school students, just like that tools change, the capability to use those tools change, and hence we adopt to that.
Yeah,
Agreed.
to add to add to.
Only point I would make to this gentleman and to Dr. Kapoli was either of the cases what that gentleman, Mr. Karan, spoke, and what completely agreeing with Dr. Upali, that the primary and secondary education is where reading and writing is necessary. It will be rubbish of higher education to say that that's not necessary. It may be on a Kindle, it may be anywhere, even ChatGPT requires reading. I mean, you just don't produce anything out of ChatGPT and just post it.
Yeah,
that would be stupid. If they don't use that intelligence, then there is no critical thinking. Okay. The critical thinking comes after the ChatGPT, whatever it gives, is you review it and does it reflect what you're wanting to say. Yeah. Now that requires reading and writing. Now I agree with Dr. Upali, and anyway, both the panelists and Dr. Karan were coming from two planets. He's talking of primary education and you were talking of secondary education. So, sorry, higher education. That's like planets apart. But it is rubbish to say that reading and writing is not necessary and writing a letter is not necessary. It's absolute rubbish, whoever has said this.
Okay.
Can I add one thing, just one thing? What's your name, good name, sir? Arun. Arun, you made a very good point. We should know what our student capabilities are. We should know what is the strength or the weakness of a student. When I did graduation, or I did even post-graduation, we were having Microsoft PowerPoint to make the presentation. Now recently I was supposed to present a lecture somewhere. So there is nothing wrong in learning. You should always be a good learner. Even if you are into a teaching line or a facilitator, you should always be a learner. So one of my students told me that there is a software called Gamma, and Canvas I heard about, but I never used that. So she told me, and I felt like it is so easy to make a presentation just in fraction of seconds. One person is good at documenting, one person is good at communicating, other person is good at, and maybe I'm lacking in making a good presentation, an eye-catchy presentation, then that software is going to help me out in doing that. So yes, we should definitely look for what our student is good at, rather than just, there should always be positive reinforcement, I should use the word. When we take our classes or a studio, we should definitely, it's our duty to tell the mistake of the student, where they are lacking, but at the same time, first we should point out what is the best thing that they have done.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
To the gentleman sitting in the front, you are absolutely right that developing critical thinking skills is a given. It's non-negotiable. However, what we use to determine that can differ. For example, if you ask me to calculate the cube root of a number by hand, I can't do it. If you, until about 20 years ago, people in Japan, shopkeepers in Japan would use a calculator and then cross-check the results of the calculator on their abacus. Would you do that if you're using a calculator on Excel today? No, you trust the tool, right? It is right. So, is being able to read a text thoroughly, being able to grok it is definitely a sign of intelligence. But is the way to measure that the fact that they read and write, or some other way to measure that is something we can debate?
Yeah, thank you. Sir, you can have a discussion over a cup of tea because we are having shortage of time. The only thing that I will say over this discussion that we should train ourselves. The generation in 50s and 60s, they should train their mind to convert their negative emotions into positive emotions. We always keep hearing from our seniors that we used to learn below the lamp, we used to go 20 kilometers to school, and what you are doing. But even the same result, if he is able to produce being in AC or in the, so the same facility is given by you only, na? So the thing is, and second point is we are now going to become technology dependent. Okay, earlier we used to remember mobile numbers, but today even I don't know how many of you remember your friend's mobile number, or your wife or your husband mobile number. Okay. Wife you remember, okay. Okay. So we are totally dependent on Google Map. Earlier we used to remember the roads, but now we are totally dependent on Google Map. So technology is coming in a big way. Technology is, and we are going to use the technology day and night. And one quote that I would like to say here, that technology will not replace you, but if you don't use the technology, you will be replaced. Okay. So with that point.
Sir, I would like to make a point here.
Yeah, please.
Dr. Swati this side from IMM Business School. I think the problem here is our evaluation and examination patterns are not ready yet to evaluate the new age tools.
Yes, yes.
So if my student is producing results from ChatGPT or some AI tools, my pattern should be ahead of that to identify what is his authentic work is. So for that we have rubrics that are available on internet from various universities like Boston and Harvard. So why can't we adapt and blend them with our curriculum and be ready ahead of them?
Evaluation thing is very critical, because I tell to my students also, like whatever we are teaching, it is not going to help you to getting a job.
Just answer this.
As far as rubrics is concerned, at Galgotia's University, it was way back in 2016. We developed the curriculum based upon that rubric model.
Okay.
So,
Dr.
yes,
Swati, I would also
it is at a very early stage, but we are using it.
You see, my request to all of us, we are all educators in the field. I think unless we change our assessment system.
That is very important. That is very important.
I'll just add to this, Dr. Swati.
Because still we are on a piece of paper. Like students are giving written examination on piece of paper, and we are giving them knowledge. Okay, because I am a civil engineer, I will give you one example that we teach them how to draw shear force, bending moment diagram for simply supported beam, column, something like that. But they give the exam, they get the good marks. But then I ask them one question, that do you think that a company will ask you to draw this bending moment and shear force diagram and pay you 50,000 rupees per month? Not like that. You have to make yourself capable to design the multi-story building. Like Burj Khalifa, you should be able to design. But they can design using software. But software is taught, but not evaluated in the examination. Like, again, they have to come back on a piece of paper and they have to give the examination like that. So definitely,
just one more thing, Dr. Amit, I would like to add to address Dr. Swati. You're very right. I am also trying to bring up the same thing, that our assessments need to change. Instead of saying that, they are no good and they are doing this, we need to be one up and see that, okay, if this is what is available, this is doable, let's see how do we assess them. So, there are many ways of doing that, but coming to the point that you talked about, that why can't we introduce that, because Harvard and Wharton and all are doing it, there's a little bit of catch there. Their education, this pattern, assessment pattern has to start in the school level. If it doesn't start in the primary to middle to high school, it is very difficult at the higher education that you immediately take them through. A lot of students who come from the IB education process, they are still used to it because they are doing a lot of reflective thinking as they are moving along. Whereas in the CBSE model or other models, they've started doing it with the new types of, higher order thinking skills, questions, etc. NEP will bring in more, but their preparation needs to start much before they come to the higher education. Otherwise, you have a whole class failing because, they haven't got used to this. And then there are other problems related to that.
So in true sense, if we want to achieve globalization and internationalization, so we should also understand their assessment process. Okay, then only we can, yeah, please, madam.
Thank you so much for speaking about that. I'd like to bring the conversation back to the first question that you started about how globalization, internationalization, and all this technology could kind of come together. We experimented it at IMM, and this is my experience that I'm talking about, along with my co-faculty members. We have put up 3 international programs online last year. And this was an experiment for us. It was something in which we said that we need to get them culturally sensitized to other faculties from international areas where they speak. It was putting up a program is not that difficult. I mean, you can always do that. But then, when you actually put it in the class, then you're worried, will they understand the intonation of the faculty? Will they get it? So we actually had to put up sensitization classes. My faculties are nodding their heads as they remember that we had to say, okay, this is what an American accent sounds like. This is what a British accent sounds like. We haven't yet come to the Australian one. We will come there too. It was very, it was interesting. It gave them different perspectives, subjects that we have taught them, a different perspective, a different outlook. So the students sometimes, because they'd also learned it from us, because one thing you have to admit that in the Indian system, we really give them everything. We give them a whole wide, learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this. Whereas internationally, you pick up one subject and you go in depth. And as much in depth with this is there. So that was an interesting way to be able to show to the students that don't think that you know it all. You have a lot more to learn, different perspective, different ideas, different thinking, because you are now not in a job, or they're all looking for jobs, they want to work with multinationals. You have to be culturally sensitive. This cross-culture sensitization doesn't come from a textbook. It comes from small little things. When I understand why a South Indian says, no, 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 and is actually saying yes, yeah, small little nods like that. These are experiences we've done, and it is very, very imperative. I also want to thank all the speakers for their wonderful conversation about the different kind of habits and the different skills. This is food for thought for me, because I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow, and I was saying, what am I going to say? So thank you, each one of you, for adding that. The fact is, so far as we know, technology is here to stay. If we have to deal with it, if we don't deal with it, I agree with you, we are the ones who are out. So we have to learn how to adapt it, embrace it. But what technology does not do is that critical thinking. Is it right? I just saw a picture we were talking about, because I'm in the media thing, so I like looking at it. So one of these pictures, Mother Teresa fighting poverty. And you know what kind of picture came? There is Mother Teresa with a sword, and she's fighting the natives of Africa. I mean, that was not really. The cultural overtones and the subtext in texts also need to be understood. That is the critical thinking that needs to come, and that I believe, I agree with you, you do need to bring it in at the school stages, starting from there and not later on.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. I think I have got the signal from the organizers that we have to wind up. So just before I hand over the session to the organizers, I'll just conclude the session. I thank everyone present over here. To make this session interactive, I always understand that there will be a difference of opinion that can be discussed over the cup of tea which is waiting over there. And just to conclude the discussion, I can say that there are great opportunities in the field of STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics. And we all understand that the internet has improved our connectivity. Social media has made us capable of connecting with people. Earlier, the learning was teacher-centric. Like teacher was only knowing that from where to get the information. But now my students say that if you don't tell me, I'll get from faculty from MIT or from Cambridge or some other institute. And they are easily connecting with them, and then they are getting the answer. So you cannot be the owner of the everything. Okay, so that is very positive development in terms of technology. Safe travel has made this world very small. Now we can easily travel. You all must have experienced that morning you are having tea in Delhi, and then evening you are having dinner in Calcutta or in Bangalore somewhere. So that much safe travel has. So those who are sitting over here, that administrators and other institutional head and policy makers, some of the points that I would like to mention here that needs immediate attention in terms of achieving true globalization and internationalization. First thing that we have to ensure that free movements of students and scientists, which is still, it's not very free, like you cannot easily move from one place to another place. And training of professionals, improving academic quality. One expert say that understanding the culture and tradition, because when you are bringing international students to your institution or sending your student to international universities, so they should understand their culture, and you should also understand their culture, that how they can be safe over there. Then there should be improved policies and practices, improving the partnership with the industry so that you can ensure the local needs. Then best use of technology and social networks. This I have just listed down. And you have to make your institutions interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. You have to make that environment. And networking at the national and global level. So these are the basic needs of higher education institutions, and they should look upon. And the expenses they should also see. I have seen many institutions in this race. They are spending a lot of money on APC, that is called academic processing charges. Okay, lakhs of monies are spent to publish manuscripts by paying. So that fund can be utilized to develop their research capabilities so that they can actually attract the talented people. Okay, and there should be a vision of long term. Like long-term vision should be there rather than gaining short-term advantages. So with this, I thank you all once again for making this session very interactive, and I am sure that our organizers are losing their patience now. so thank you very much. I hand over the session to the organizers. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we all join our hands? Come on. For this informative session,